Elon Musk states that we need to colonize Mars because it's far enough away from Earth that in the event of a war, it is more likely to survive than a moon base. I disagree with his reasoning. Musk wants us to run away from the detrimental problems that we face here on Earth. But what if we could fix these problems so that we wouldn't have to transform this failing system to our new form of life? The theme of today's talk is the final frontier, a part of a region or country that is last to be settled, explored, or developed. The key word here is develop. As a society, we are striving to colonize and develop the vast unknown. But the question I pose to you today is why should we go and develop the unknown when our own Earth, the known, has not yet reached its final frontier? 1 billion people have been living in economies that have been stagnant for over 40 years and are still plagued with the title of third world countries. But why is this so? It is because there is something that we have been unable to reach to transform these underdeveloped nations into those we consider first world. The developing world is truly in a quagmire. So how do we visualize this problem? Well, we can adapt Paul Collier's 4 traps that prevent development. This talk is about those traps and why we need to solve them before we can reach the final frontier. So let's look at the first trap, and one of the hardest traps to solve, conflict. 73% of the poorest billion are either involved in civil war or are recently recovering from one. In the fight to create well-developed nations, civil war creates a vicious circle. War causes poverty, low incomes lead to rising tensions, and low growth means high unemployment. And as a result, there are enough people willing to fight. Similarly, this conflict scares away investors because of the breakdown of our infrastructure and leads to even fewer opportunities for these underdeveloped nations. Furthermore, most underdeveloped nations have been kicked around by bigger countries in the past, and this is especially true of former colonies who were robbed by imperial powers and then abandoned. Climates like this give rise to political instability and massive amounts of corruption, and climates like this make progress extremely difficult. So what we need to focus on doing is building peace and restoring peace before we can build rockets, and it has to be a major part of solving this issue. Next, natural resources. They are a key and vital source to our survival and growth. Natural resources are a key factor in development, in particular the natural resource wealth. The natural resource trap, however, can occur for a variety of reasons. Political instability, corruption, danger of over-rapid extraction of finite and renewable resources, land grabs, and damaging of domestic industries. The reason this is so problematic is because natural resource wealth does not always go back to the people. When there is a rush of investment in one sector, it draws attention, skills, and capital away from other sectors. So, for example, when natural resources are discovered, the demand for infrastructure and business development draws attention away and takes priority over any other concerns. Hence, without countries being able to fully absorb and gain their natural resource wealth, they will not have enough money to develop in the future. Thirdly, landlocked countries. This is about the geography of the Earth and being landlocked with bad neighbors. 38% of the bottom billion live in landlocked countries. 38% of the bottom billion live in landlocked countries. But this doesn't have to be completely disastrous. If your neighbors are nice and they have well-developed infrastructure, such as established ports, then exportation is quite possible. But if your neighbors are war-stricken countries or they don't like you, then the ability to export becomes extremely difficult. Collier gives the example of Switzerland, who is able to transport through Italy and Germany pretty freely. Compare this with Uganda, which borders with Rwanda, Kenya, Somalia, the Congo, having no dependable ways to export. Now, why is this so problematic? It's because these countries like Uganda and Rwanda are completely cut off from the global economy. And the best that we have tried to do is prioritize them in aid. And this is simply not enough to try and pull these countries into a developmental state. Now, another question we saw debated recently in the news is what if an international presence had forcibly removed Mugabe? And this brings us to the fourth and final trap, and an extremely difficult trap for a third-party organization to fix: bad governance. Most underdeveloped nations are either failing or recently failed states, and while governments do not function or exist solely to benefit themselves, progress is extremely limited. It is estimated that each failed state costs $100 billion to the global economy. And while the cost of intervening is much less, the case is made for more military intervention. While this may not seem like the most popular opinion, the money that could then be used for development is instead channeled into the military and used and put into the pockets of high-ranking officials. In climates like this, leaders are more concerned about power than about the people, making this problem of systemic corruption extremely difficult to tackle. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to tell you that our underdeveloped nations are facing major problems of geographical immobility, political corruption, and economic instability. But these may seem like major problems that we can't solve. Instead of running away from them, like Elon Musk wants us to do, we simply need to break the problem down. If we do not have a fully developed, functioning, and stable Earth, then the problems that we face now will only grow and develop, and these same ideologies will just be replicated when we try to colonize space. So what we need to do, and what we need to help these underdeveloped nations achieve, are better governments, sovereign wealth funds, and natural resource profits. This is when we will truly and successfully be able to reach the final frontier on Earth, turning our third world into the first world. Thank you.